Neighborhood Development Committee will now come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderwoman Florida. Alderman Moore.
Here.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderman Villa.
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Gracia.
Present.
Chairman Ortmann.
Present.
Six present.
Did you get Shane?
Alderman Cone.
Present.
He's hiding. Okay, today the first bill that we're going to hear is Board Bill 24. Alderman Rhodey.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, this is a board bill for 5-year tax abatement for 4467 Gibson. The developer is an experienced developer in that neighborhood. He acquired the building for $40,000 and will be spending $280,000 to rehab it.
Questions? Alderman Schmidt.
I have no questions. Do we have photos?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have no questions.
Alderman Moore.
No questions.
Alderman Cohen.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No question.
Alderman Villa.
No, thank you.
Alderman Moore.
Thank you, sir.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
Who is the developer?
Austin Berenzini. I have trouble with the last name. Is it Berenzini? It's listed on the description of the board bill summary.
We don't have the board bills. Oh.
Oh, okay.
I got it, Alderman. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. Okay, hearing no other questions, I will entertain a motion on Board Bill 24.
So moved.
Craig made one, I thought. No, I didn't.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Aye. Thank you. Aye. Mighty quiet.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Next on the agenda is Board Bill 19. Alderwoman Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Board Bill 19 refers to a property at 2422 through 24 South 11th Street. As you can see, it's a former storefront building. It's being converted into 2 townhouses that will be for sale. Acquisition cost was $112,000, and the construction costs are estimated at $351,000. So they'll have approximately 3,800 square feet of total space there. There'll be 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and parking is limited there. And we're providing 5 years of tax abatement as an incentive for the new purchaser.
Questions? Alderman Schmidt.
I have no questions.
Alderman Moore.
No.
Alderman Cohen.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
No, thank you.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
I have no questions, so I'll entertain a motion for
Moved.
Board Bill 19.
Second.
Previous.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 19 is out with a due pass. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 49. Alderwoman Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Board Bill 49 deals with a former Polar Wave ice house, and within the walls of that are going to be constructed apartments. This one sits on the corner of 9th and Barton Street. It was acquired for $150,000, and the projected construction costs are $6 million. I am proposing 10 years of tax abatement for this project because the building is extremely poor and it's a very difficult rehab to take a nice house and put a series of apartments in it. There'll be 42 apartments in the building as it's finished. They'll have 21 parking spaces within this first floor of this space. And basically, that's what's going on.
Alderman Schmidt.
You should hold the coolness pretty well then, right?
Well insulated except for the roof, right?
That's it. I have nothing.
Alderman Moore.
No question.
Alderman Cohen.
No thanks.
Alderwoman Howard.
Oh, thank you.
Alderman Villa.
Barrett, you said 6 million?
Barrett.
Yeah. I understand him.
Good for you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sign of age.
Long-term memory.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
I have no questions. I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill
So
49.
moved.
Second, previous.
No objection to previous roll. Board Bill 49 is out with a due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 50. Alderwoman Young.
Thank you. Board Bill 50 deals with 2010 Geyer Avenue. It is a two-family. It's going to be rehabbed into a two-family rental unit. There is a man, Rocco Dana, in the neighborhood who has been basically doing building by building, and this is another of his projects, and we're proposing 5 years of tax abatement for him. He acquired the property for $27,000, and he's planning to spend $260,000 to rehab it. So we're providing 5 years of tax abatement.
Sorry, 50.
Alderman Schmidt.
What are they digging for in the backyard? It looks like they're going to lose that tree any second.
I'm sorry, I didn't
A
see the
huge
picture
hole in the
of the
backyard.
back of it. I would imagine they're probably digging the sewer system.
It almost looks like a collapse.
Okay,
Done.
that's it.
Alderman Moore.
No.
Alderman Cohen.
No, thank you.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 50.
So moved.
Second,
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 50 is out with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you all.
Is Alderman Kennedy here?
I'll do my best. Tamika. I will let her know.
Board Bill number 52, Alderwoman Flowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee. It's been a while since I've been before this committee. Board Bill 52 is located at 6335 Bulwer. It is going to be a 100,000 square foot greenhouse.
Pictures.
Here we go. I might as well give you, I'm gonna give you the other one too, okay? That's for the other board bill, all right. It's a 100,000 square foot hydroponic greenhouse. Bright Farms will be occupying it, and they have a contract with Snooks to provide 1 million pounds of fresh produce per year. 90% of the building will be for the growing operation and 10% for packaging and the office. It's on a 5.74 acre site. They plan to have 20 employees, and they are seeking 10-year tax abatement. This is in the vicinity of where Love's Travel Center just recently opened up last year off of Broadway. The total construction is $3.8 million. That's the second board bill, Ken.
Alderman Schmidt,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Alderman Moore,
No.
Alderman Cohen,
I just think that this is a really exciting opportunity, and that particular area just continues to see more investment, which is really awesome, so congratulations.
And they're really into wanting to train people from the community to learn the operation and be employed there.
That's awesome. I don't have any other questions or comments.
Alderwoman Howard,
No questions.
Alderman Villa,
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
Congrats.
Thank you.
We have a couple of speakers. Robert, is it Matt to be, or?
Yeah, he's from Green Streets.
You're
He's a
fired, but you
developer.
don't want to speak? You don't have to. And that's it, just one speaker.
So that's who's developing, Mr. Chairman, Green Street?
Green
system?
Street, yes, is the developer.
Hearing no other questions on Board Bill 52, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, previous?
No objection. Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 52 is out with a due pass. Board Bill 53, Alderwoman Flowers.
Yes, Board Bill 53 is located off of Riverview and Lookaway near the chain of rocks in the water department. It's a project that has been lingering for many, many years, and it's finally coming to being here. So it's Gateway Property Services are building 22 new homes there. Their acquisition price is $341,000. Total construction is $3,509,000. There are already 3 models that have been built, and they're seeking 5-year tax abatement. They do have some affordable housing assistance. It's vacant at this moment, and the 3 homes that were built are actually county homes, and that's where the project kind of left off several years ago. So I'm kind of excited that this will finally happen. It'll have a beautiful view of the river, and I'm just glad that we're able to get this project finally started. It did get the approval from the community association, which was something that never happened before. And as alderperson, I do what my people ask, and if they don't want it, I don't support it. But they have got the support this time.
Alderman Schmidt.
I don't normally ask this, so 5 years is all that they need to do the project.
Well, at the time that we were talking, I was thinking of, I don't know why, Alderman Wessels being the head of HUDs and him kind of cracking down on it.
He does too.
Yeah, and then it came to neighborhood development. So it's been a while we've been talking about it, but it was before I even knew it was coming here. So the community was opposed to the 10-year tax abatement before, so we knocked it down to 5 years of compromise because there were a lot of concerns about that.
Thank you.
Alderman Moore.
No.
Alderman Cohen.
Do you mind just sharing a little bit about the history? Because I know that this has been a long time in the works. Do you mind just sharing a little bit of the history of this project?
Man, this probably was introduced to me 14 years ago. It's been about 3 or 4 different developers. And the history has been that the community on the upper side of Lookaway were concerned about the square footage of the properties and possibly them bringing their house values down. There is a project up off of Lookaway at the end. There was a housing project years before I was alderman, even thought about politics, and it ended up becoming it's the most grand area in the ward with Section 8 property on it, and the community was concerned that what was going to happen to this property after 10 years. They felt people would live there, and after the abatement was up, they would move. And so they had a little bad taste in their mouth, and they were concerned about their property values. That area there was mainly homes for people that had a lot of money back in the day, and there was their summer homes. And they're big, but they're not ideal family homes, but they're very nice, very rich, and they have a very decent housing value, even though we've experienced a lot of foreclosures in 2008. And the residents up there are very organized and very concerned about the area. I mean, they fought off the casino, and they beat down Motor Mart for a while until they complied, and they're on their job. They're on their job. So there were a lot of concerns that we still have to address as far as entrance to the property and so forth, but it's come a long way. And I really believe this particular developer is not trying to make a whole lot of money. He thinks they can be very affordable, and I don't think he's out to do what other people want to do, just build and make a mint and then move on. He really is concerned about the development, and I think he's really has a good heart and spirit with this project.
Thank you. And I know that just in the past, some of the concerns that I've at least heard have been like around like the lot sizes and kind of proportions of the building and all of that. So have those concerns been worked out in this current plan to your knowledge?
The lot sizes have not changed. Apparently the permit that was accepted by the city many, many years ago, that's what it's been and that's what it has stayed. Now, me trying to learn this whole operation in 14 years, I kept hearing, well, this is what the comps will support, this is what the comps will support. And honestly, these houses are no bigger than my house at 1526 Grape. It just has a lot of zuzus and wham-whams. And the issues were there wasn't enough backyards. But through the years, I have heard from people that want to live in this community that don't necessarily want to keep a backyard. They don't mind the small front yards. And but that was the concern, that it was going to look like Whoville, which was what I always expressed it to be. So the lot sizes didn't change, but I think with the economy and the downturn of how housing has come to be, it's a little bit more understandable now. And
I have one other question. So the street that the homes are being built along, was that paid for by a developer or a TIF, or was that paid for by the city and currently maintained by whom?
It is a mystery how those streets got paid, to be perfectly honest. Okay. It was kind of when I became alderman, this whole project was evolving around me without even giving me the proper authority just to say yes or no. So a lot of things were done. I mean, the electrical lines are underground. You won't see the electrical poles. This was a development that was meant to happen until the community put their foot in it and got me involved. So it really caused a lot of anger from the residents, and still somehow they receive snow removal, even though they live in the county, from the city somehow. So I don't know who has their magic finger on that property, but I don't know how the streets got paved. It wasn't me. Don't know how the sidewalks got done. It wasn't me.
Thank you.
That's why it took so long.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
Alderman, if you've got a mystery person paving streets, send them down to the other end.
Well, I will put it this way. Todd Walterman was not the street commissioner at the time, so we don't know. We don't know.
Did you said zuzus and wham-whams? What is that?
Well, you got your marble tops and your vaulted ceilings and your gold fixtures, all that fancy stuff, the stuff you need to go get a home loan for if you wanted to put in my house, which I did. But they're going to give them a lot of amenities, I'll say. Bells and whistles, maybe not zuzus and wham-whams. I should have used bells and whistles. That's my mother's term, zuzus and wham-whams. Bells and whistles.
Okay, thanks. I'd never heard zuzus and wham-whams, but I don't get out enough. Thank you, Alderman.
You're welcome.
You're in Whoville.
Whoville.
It's things such as onyx tubs and, alabaster.
Onyx walls that are backlit?
Correct.
That's ridiculous.
Like at my house.
No.
You've lost control, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
Would the clerk add those words to our political list? Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion for Board Bill 53.
So moved on the wham whams and zoos.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a request for previous roll? Hearing no objection, previous roll. Board Bill 53 is out with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Board Bill 30, Alderman Conway.
Good morning, members of the committee. Which address is 30? Okay,
3670 Flora.
all right. 3670 Flora is 5-year tax abatement. I think the people overpaid for it because it was in bad shape. I've been in it many times in my life, and I'm holding it to 5-year tax abatement.
Pictures?
Yes, I'm sorry. And it's on the south side of Flora where the yards are smaller, so that was an incredible number they paid for it. Yeah, that was the house that the nuns were trying to make into a boarding house or a convent at one point, but we stopped them. We finally did get someone to move in there.
We don't have another one, so we need to make.
I need to
sure we
pass
get
that
it
one
together.
down here. Are you done?
I'm finished.
Alderman Schmidt?
No question.
Alderman Moore?
No question.
Alderman Cohen?
No, thank you.
Alderwoman Howard?
No question.
Alderman Villa?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia?
No thanks.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 30.
So moved.
Second, previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 30 is out with a due pass. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 31.
And that would be 3663 Cleveland. And there's the picture in the hit sheet. And that would be the standard. The 3600 block of Cleveland is between Grand and Spring Avenue. We have a couple of lower-end residences there at that point in time. This building actually had been in bad disarray for many, many years. I know that the construction cost did not exceed the acquisition costs, but that'll be a good deal when that one is done.
Alderman Schmidt?
I'm sorry, Alderman, what neighborhood is that?
Shaw neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Moore?
No question.
Alderman Cohen?
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard?
How much did you say they paid for that?
$80,000.
Alderman Villa?
No questions.
Alderwoman Ingracia?
No questions.
The only question I have is, does Shaw really need 10 years?
What I've done and what I've instructed Amina is that the Shaw neighborhood is kind of that market category, basically from Flora Place south and at least east of Lawrence. That's an A category, but I do have like Shenandoah, the 3600 block of Shenandoah, Cleveland, and Shenandoah, Cleveland, and Botanical are in pretty bad shape. Anything north of Flora Place and west of Lawrence, or actually west of 39th Street, is a Category C. And you'll see when we come up to the next one, one of the two next ones, what type of condition the property was in, and that the construction costs were 10 times what they paid for the acquisition. So what I've asked them to do is south of Flora Place, it's 5 years, and going forward, and then north of Flora, depending on which little area it is, to go down to 5-year tax abatement.
Thank you, Alderman. Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 31.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 31 is out with a due pass. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 32.
And this would be the one that I told you, the construction costs are almost 15 times the acquisition cost. This is a series of 4 families. Well, this is only one 4-family, but there's 2 of them being done now, just immediately east of Sasha's wine bar there. But you can see in this particular situation, they were $30,000 for the building, and they're putting $430,000 into it. So that they are taking a bit of a risk there that still backs up to Detonte and backs up to Highway 44. And then that is market type on that particular block, E category. It was on the other side of the street, it probably could come in as a C. So we would be requesting 10-year tax abatement for that.
Alderman Schmidt.
C sounds good to me.
C?
C sounds very good to me. Okay.
They're very demanding in the Shaw neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's where my gray hair came from.
Alderman Cohen.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
Any idea how much in millions of dollars in rehab work you have going on in Shaw in your ward? Is that a stupid question?
No, it's not a stupid question. I know in the last 5 years, it's been almost $20 million. And it's all,
Thank you.
yeah, all private money, you know, no funny money.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
Nope,
I thought you would top that.
can't happen today.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion for Board Bill 32.
So moved.
I need a second.
Previous.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 32 is out with a due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda, Board Bill 33 and your last bill, I think.
Okay. And that would be 351618 Wyoming. And the one thing is, now that we've merged our housing corporations, at least you'll start seeing, I think, some of this activity further south in Tower Grove South, down by Fairview and places like that. That was the whole purpose there, is that we're taking our crew that has done Shaw and moved them further south in the city. And they do have significant, I know Jennifer's not here, but there's a lot of problems in Tower Grove South. Not in Tower Grove Heights, the nice area, but the other area heading south, there's a lot of problems we're trying to help with. But this is in Tower Grove East, bad condition. We've started doing a number of properties in the Tower Grove East area, and we would ask for your favorable consideration on this one. In this case, the construction cost is twice the acquisition cost.
Alderman Schmidt.
Thank you.
Alderman Moore.
No question.
Alderman Cohen.
No question.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
Alderman, I won't tell the alderman from the 15th what you said until I see her in the morning.
Okay, she won't be here tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
I'm really glad to see Tower Grove East project start in that wedge. That's what they call the wedge. Because when I first got elected a long time ago, I represented that part. So
Well, you left it behind in good shape, at least the part you gave me. The part that the alderwoman from the 6th ended up with is she was not as fortunate as me.
She's a little bit further north.
And east.
I like a challenge.
I've 20 years.
We have a speaker, Steve Fitzgerald.
Hello. You didn't say what you were asking for. He didn't mention an amount of tax abatement.
10 years.
10 years. So that would be like the maximum for that area. Now, will there be any taxes paid at that particular building? Because I'm worried about, our schools today. So will they be paying any taxes to the city, or is it just, it's frozen and they're not going to have to pay any additional taxes?
It's frozen, and for the 10 years, after the 10 years, then it gets the full assessment of it. So they pay taxes, but they're paying the same as what they would be paying now. Am I correct, Dale?
Correct, yes.
Will those be going to the city, or will those be going to
They
pay
go to
back?
the same place all our other taxes go to.
Wonderful. That seems very fair. One other thing that I thought would be important to the neighborhood to keep in step with what we're doing. I live there, and in 25 years, or 25 years ago, we had 8 neighbors get together and we increased our lighting. I don't know if you guys have ever been there at night. It's the brightest alley you ever seen in your life. You could play ball in the backyard. And 25 years ago we did it. I got pictures, and I'd like to see that continue from what we did 25 years ago. We have seen 3 garages built, 2 new car pads. So off-street parking became huge, I believe, from the lighting.
We don't really have control over that.
Oh, okay.
What this hearing is for is what pertains in this, in the
Okay.
bill itself.
Okay.
So, and tax abatement is an incentive for the buyer, for your new neighbor in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So, I mean, a lot of us all support tax abatement, so people will move from out of state or the county or wherever into our neighborhoods when these projects get done. So it's actually a selling incentive for the developer, because he doesn't get anything. And the new neighbor that you'll have, you know, they're the ones that get the benefit of the tax abatement until it gets reassessed, and then they get whammed with a 10-year assessment. So, you know, I hope Tower Grove East does well. I get friends that live in the 3400 block of Humphrey, you know, and I'm very familiar with it. So,
Oh, yeah, very good.
went to a lot of meetings at St. Pius with Father Mike, but we need to stay on the bill.
10 years seems fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no other questions, I will entertain a motion on Board Bill 33.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 33 is out with a due pass. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 44, Alderman Ogilvy.
Good afternoon. Board Bill 44 is a request for 5 years of tax abatement at 2 adjacent properties in the Clifton Heights neighborhood. A little more than 10 years ago, there was a church on this property that was torn down for another redevelopment project, which was somewhat controversial in the neighborhood, I'm told. That project ended up not happening. This is a new owner of the property who is putting less units on these 2 lots. There was a proposal for, I think it was either 6 or 8 condos. This is 2 single-family homes. They are somewhat unique in that they're 4-bedroom homes, which we don't see a ton of new construction in the city. And sale price should be about $325,000.
Alderman Schmidt.
No questions.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Cohen.
I would just like to express my appreciation and thanks for the 5-year tax abatement for an area of the city that is, you know, considered relatively stable. So thank you for whatever work that you may have had on that.
Sure. I think it's interesting because it is stable and housing values are pretty stable, but there's also very little new construction throughout that part of the city, and sort of very few opportunities, very few vacant lots, and relatively high, relatively speaking, higher land values. And the market is not really so focused on single-family construction right now. It's much easier to finance multifamily, so I think there is still a need to not sort of write off the need for some incentives for single-family construction. Thanks, though.
That's it.
Alderwoman Howard,
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
No, just a comment that any new housing start, I think, is a major plus. We get a great deal of consternation, have 23 condos going up in the 11th ward. They opted not to seek abatement, but that's a whole other story. Any new construction in the city, I think, is important. Thank you.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
I remember the controversy, and if I remember correctly, it went through HUD's back in the day when they were trying to demo, or they did demo the church. So, hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 44.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 44 is out with a due pass.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is Board Bill 17, Alderman Kennedy.
I don't see the bill. Do you have a copy of it?
4218 Maryland.
Yes. Wow. Always have it on vibrate. I don't know what happened. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Board Bill 17 is for tax abatement for property at 4218 Maryland. This is the block that is just west of the Lindell Market where Snooks is located. And so it's in between what is Whittier and Boyle. That particular block was not initially included in the development area that McCormick Barron had. Many years ago, they opted out of that particular plan. They did not want to be a part of it. So they have slowly developed properties in that area. Just as a historical note, that's, if anybody knows anything about rappers, that's the block that Akon grew up in. Just a little note. The property is for a renovation of a presently existing building at that location, and this particular one gives it the tax abatement. I'm saying I had initially requested a 10-year tax abatement. I'm just seeing on this note here that the staff only recommended 5.
It's 10 on ours.
Well, I'm seeing
17.
something here that says something
He's reading
different.
this sheet.
It says here, therefore, the staff is only recommending 5, which was not in. Give it to me. It was to, they did approve it for the 10 years. Oh, okay.
What we have.
Okay.
Alderman, do you have any pictures?
Yes.
Pictures are always good.
So the board bill does have 10 years tax abatement.
Yes. Are you
That
done?
completes it, and I ask for your favorable support.
Questions, Alderman Schmidt? Alderman Moore?
No.
Alderman Cohen?
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard?
No questions.
Alderman Villa?
No, thank you.
Alderwoman Ingracia?
No questions.
Hearing no other questions, Board Bill, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 17.
So moved.
Second, previous.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 17 is out with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
Do you want to chair? Whatever he wants to.
He's got them all. 15?
15, and then 34, and then 35, and then 40. I'm sorry, I took the bills.
Okay.
This is a vacant lot in the Benton Park neighborhood. It's 2841 through 47 Indiana. It's been LRA since I've lived in the neighborhood. And actually, it's kind of a unique building that's being built, and it's the developer is actually the owners, and it's Jamie and Jessica Hatfield, and both of them are disabled and then wheelchairs. So this is a building that they're building, probably that they're going to live in the rest of their life, because it's all one floor. And we've gone through a lot of process they have with the neighborhood association, with myself, because it's in Benton Park, which is a local historic district. So after getting through all the hoops, culture resources, everything, here's where we are. And what they're asking for, what they're getting is a 5-year tax abatement. The acquisition cost is $91,100. Construction cost is $379, or about $380,000, rounding up. It's been a fantastic working project in progress, and I can't wait until they break ground, which should be any time. So I'm asking for your favorable support for a 5-year tax abatement.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Alderman, Alderman Moore? No. Alderman Cone?
So this is currently a one-story building? Or it's a vacant lot?
Vacant lot.
Okay, I was going to say.
I don't see a building on that lot.
No, it doesn't look like there's a building on the lot. So, and the lot is currently owned by LRA?
Yes. Well, it's not now. They've closed on it, but yes, it was an LRA.
They paid
property.
$91,000 for an LRA property?
I don't get involved in that.
That's, okay.
That's what the paperwork says.
All the better for LRA. That's wonderful. So, okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Howard?
No questions.
Alderman Villa?
$91,000.
Alderman Villa? Any questions, sir?
That's
Was an LRA lot that they purchased for that price?
It was several LRA
Yeah,
lots.
that's it.
Yes.
That's what happens with it.
I think part of it was privately owned and part of it was LRA, so
Oh.
I don't know how you.
It was all
divide that
LRA.
up, but I suspect the lion's share of that was privately.
No, Dale. It was all LRA.
Was it all LRA?
Yes.
Okay, I thought part of it was privately owned.
Ken, about how many square feet?
Oh, I'm not sure. You mean as far as the?
The picture, I mean, that's a big lot.
It is a very large lot.
Well, yeah, because everything's got to be on the first floor. And remember, they're both in wheelchairs, so this was, kind of difficult in progress, because they're going to have a drive off the street, which is against our historic code. So we're letting them do, an approach on the street, and they're going to have, I think it's a 12-foot drive to come in the back, and they have to have an extra wide radius to be able to turn into the garage. And their garage has got to be larger, because they have to open the doors up all the way to be able to, get in and out with the wheelchairs. I've learned a lot with the ADA stuff as far as, what somebody would need. And, they're a fantastic couple. They come trucking down in the wheelchairs to our concerts, through Benton Park. Sometimes I wonder how they, get around. But this has just been an experience, and I think it's fantastic that we got through all the meetings, all the departments, and we're at construction now, that it's going to happen.
Does your historic code dictate that you can't have a front entry drive?
Yes, an approach, yes.
Because we were anti-car?
No, I think that we're don't break the curb.
It's interesting. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, there are some already there, but they were there before the local code. They were, they have been there for years.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
If there's no more questions, and are there any speakers? There are no speakers. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Is there objection to previous rule?
Previous
Hearing no
rule.
objection, it'll come out of committee with the due pass recommendation. So then we're on 34.
This is a property that is actually in the Soulard neighborhood on the south side of the brewery. It's 3329 South 7th. That Tyler Bianco actually picked up. The acquisition cost was $55,594. Renovation cost is $143,478, and the asking price is going to be around $270,000. It's a two-family, going to be converted to a single family with a two-car garage port, and they're going to, what we're asking for is a 5-year tax abatement.
Are there any questions of Alderman Ortmann on Board Bill 34, Alderman Moore? Alderman, okay. Alderman Cone.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
No, thank you.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
Is there a motion on Board Bill 34?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Previous rule.
No objection to previous roll, then Board Bill 34 comes out of committee with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 35.
This is 2724 Utah. And actually, these are constituents or neighbors that live across the street from where I live now in Arsenal, and they've acquired this property, and they're doing a renovation on it. They acquired it for $35,000. The renovation costs are about $70,000 plus, and at the end of it, they're going to live there, and we're asking for a 5-year tax abatement.
Are there any questions of Alderman Ortmann on Board Bill 35? Alderman Moore. Alderman Moore, any questions?
No question.
Alderman Cone.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
What is the large building in the rear? I mean, it looks like a two-story garage.
I didn't look at the rear.
I don't know. It's really interesting, because it looks like such a small house for such a large building in the...
Is it the Casa Loma behind it, maybe?
No, it's actually
Could be.
a garage with a second floor.
Looks like it was a business or some sort of,
Well,
or some, yeah, something here.
Oh, I see the picture. Any more
And
questions,
that-
Alderwoman Howard?
And that's what makes some of these smaller buildings marketable when they have the building in the back too. Yes.
No,
Alderwoman Howard, any more questions?
no more questions.
Alderman Villa.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
And that for a time was in the old 20th Ward. If there's a motion, please, on Board Bill 35?
I make a motion, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Previous rule.
Without any objection, previous roll, Board Bill 35 comes out of committee with the due pass recommendation. Alderman, Board Bill 40.
This is a building in Soulard. and it's, if you're familiar with this, it's right where 13th Street and 12th Street wise off to go down to Sydney. And there's 3 buildings, and you'll see this, the building that we're talking about is in the middle. There's 3 buildings there, and back when they did the local historic district for Soulard, these buildings weren't put into it. The old neighborhood rumor was that the brewery was always going to buy them, and that never happened. And actually, there's a fireman that owns the property to the west of this property, and his father lived in this building, and there was a fire, and you know, his father passed in the fire. You know, but at first, you know, family kind of wanted to demo the property, and you know, it's in Soulard, so you know, that's the very, very, very last resort. And finally, some developers acquired it, and they're in the process of, actually right now, there's a dumpster back there, and they filled it up, I think, twice already. But what they're asking for, and here, let me go through this first. We're asking for a 5-year tax abatement, but the acquisition cost was $58,000, renovation cost is $357,000, and the asking price is $200,000 per unit. This is going to be 2 townhouses. So if you look at it, you know, there's going to be a townhouse on each side of the building. And what we're asking for is a 5-year tax abatement, and we're saving another building, you know, that burned up in a fire.
I'll make a motion that we, did you ask for questions?
I haven't started yet. Are there any, well, we do have a speaker on this bill, both pro and con. So why don't we hear from the speaker first?
Is it possible to get the photos? Photos.
They keep holding on to the photos.
Alderman Bill.
Go ahead. How are you?
Good. I got no questions about the abatement. I was, and I'm here for just a learning experience, but I was under the impression that they also wanted some variances of the property, and I was just here. I actually owned a house next door to them.
I know. I recognize you now, but you're cleaned up. Normally, I see you working in the yard.
Yeah, so. that's true. I've been doing it when my father owned that house, and he has since passed. But there, I have the blueprints, and you know, I don't know if this is the right place to be for what variances they're asking.
Yeah, no, this board bill only provides the incentive, as the chairperson indicated earlier. It's an incentive for the buyer. It allows them to continue paying taxes for a period of 5 years based on the current value that the assessor has assessed rather than the post-development value. We don't deal with the variances. If they seek a variance, they'll have to go to the alderman, and they'll also have to go through a hearing with the zoning office and go through the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
So that'll come up.
I figured that out after I was here for a while,
Sure.
and I thought it was interesting anyways, so I sat through it.
Great.
And so, you know, I got no problem with the tax abatement.
Right.
It's just a variance that
Super.
it could cause a problem for me, but.
So if you know the alderman, then you're in great shape.
Okay. I'll talk to you about that later.
Whoever he may be. Yeah. Thank you. So are there any questions of either Mr. Yanko or the alderman? Alderman Moore?
No.
Alderman Cone?
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard?
No questions.
Alderman Villa?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia?
No questions.
If there's no questions, we'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 40. Is there a second?
Second.
Previous roll.
No objection, previous roll. Board Bill 40 comes out of committee with due pass recommendation, and our chairperson has rejoined us.
Okay, next on the agenda is Board Bill 16, Alderman Moore.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. I'm here. I'm here proposing your favor for this development is coming up at Evans at 4409 through 25, developed by Rankin Tech. Rankin Tech in the Lewis Place area where I share that developmental area, or that area with the 18th Ward. Pictures? Find them in there for me, Dave. I'm a little shaky today. While he's passing out the pictures, Rankin has developed a lot of homes in the neighborhood. Right now on that particular block, there are 7 new houses, averaging $145,000, brand new homes, 2 to 3 bedrooms, about 14 to 1,600 square feet. Those homes, we anticipate Rankin going down eastwardly on Evans all the way to Vandervetter. Now they're up to Taylor and Newstead now. They've torn down a lot of buildings and they're beginning to develop, and it is definitely what's needed in this area. Rankin used to build the houses and tear them down for each school year. The students would build a house on Rankin's property and then tear the house down for the next class. So that's why, along with Alderman Kennedy, came up with a plan to build those houses and leave those houses standing. So the students actually build the houses. There are a lot of them on Page in the 400 block, 4300 block, and 4600 block of Page. There are a number of those Rankin homes. They are beautiful homes, and they make a big difference in such a dire and disparate neighborhood. So we're looking forward to a continued process and partnership with Rankin. So I ask for your favorable consideration.
Alderman Schmidt.
Wow. I saw something with the Associated General Contractors, and I think every year they build a deck or something like that, and then they tear it down. And I think, you know, it would be good if we could figure out a way to do the same thing. I didn't know that they were building houses and tearing them down.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Alderman Cohen.
No, I don't really have any questions, but I think that's a really awesome plan, and certainly in an area that needs it. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
Alderman, are you Samuel Moore Sr.?
No, that's my dad.
And the project's named after?
That's the name of the subdivision.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah, well, my dad was the first bricklaying instructor at Rankin Tech. He was a bricklaying instructor, and since then they haven't had any because they're using a type of product that snaps together that look like brick. So they don't need a bricklaying instructor anymore. My dad has since gone on in 2006, so they honored him by naming that subdivision after him.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
sir.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
Congratulations, cool project.
Thank you.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 16.
So moved.
Second, previous?
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 16 is out with a due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 26, Alderman Villa.
Dave, do you have pictures?
They do. I don't have them.
Oh, no, they gave them to me. Okay.
He's a rat. Forget the nervous part.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Alderman Tom Villa representing the fine people in the 11th Ward. Mr. Yanko, if it makes you feel any better, I don't recognize you now that you're cleaned up. But we have a lot of Yankos in St. Stephen's Parish. Okay. And the Yanko that's the plaster?
That's my cousin.
Okay, yeah. He's done enough plaster work in my house to buy a place in Maui, so it's nice to meet you. Mr. Chairman, Board Bill 26 is dealing with an entire block on South Broadway. It's really been festering for more than a couple of decades. Prior to James Deering, who is the Watkins LLC that bought it, the family that owned it had owned it for a long, long time. Used to argue with my late father. Gives you some idea how long this building's been falling into disrepair. Anyway, as we speak, it is condemned for occupancy. It was is it Project 87? We had trouble up on the second floor with that. So as we speak, it is completely boarded up. This particular, the board bill calls for 10 years tax abatement. It's really, as the pictures would indicate, not only a building of considerable historic significance, but it's one that in a perfect world, and South Broadway isn't perfect, it really is worth saving. With that, I think the pictures speak for itself. The developer is going to attempt to put 12 residential units in it, and then have ground floor commercial space, 49 parking spaces, which is my understanding going to be in the rear of that. And he hopes to, again, create a few jobs by whatever retail he can garner to put in there, and then streetscape improvements and whatever else. It's right across from Southern Commercial Bank. It's on the east side of Broadway. We have to make a zoning change, but you know, it is a gargantuan undertaking, needless to say, and both the exterior walls on the north end and the south end of the building are just pretty much sway-backed. So with that, I'd be glad to attempt to answer any questions you might have.
Alderman Schmidt.
Is a gargantuan project to have wham-whams and zuzus, Alderman? Alderman Merritt?
I think we have zuzus and wham-whams rather than wham-whams and zuzus. It has been just full of junk and, you know, just stored all kinds of furniture, and it was an accident waiting to happen, quite honestly. My advice to the developer was, you know, it's his money. He thinks he bought the whole block right, and so we'll try to help him any way we can. It's not going to be easy.
I have no other questions.
Alderman Moore.
No question.
Alderman Cohen.
This is just the block south of your favorite neighborhood watering hole, is it not?
You're referring to Hummel's?
I am.
One of these Thursday nights, Alderman, when you call me, and if I'm home, I still might not meet you at Hummel's, but I look forward to another invitation. Yes, Hummel's was crowded again yesterday when I went by there.
I've heard you sing a mad karaoke over at Hummel's on Thursday night.
You really have bad hearing.
Just out of curiosity, who is the developer on this?
James Deering.
Oh, James is
He's a realtor on South Broadway. He's in that neat historic building on the opposite side of the street.
Very familiar. He's my constituent.
He is indeed, yes. Ran for mayor on the Republican ticket.
He sure did. He's one of my favorite Republican constituents.
Well, that's. I'm not going to say what kind of judge of character you are, Alderman. That's your business.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Howard.
What was the cost of acquisition for this parcel?
The number I'm reading from Alderman Howard is 90,000.
Okay. And who did it belong? Did it belong to the original Watkins family, or is this?
No, it belonged to, I don't know that if their last name is important. Their name, well, I can tell you, they were trouble.
With a capital T.
Kind of. And if you couldn't get along, you know, I shouldn't say that because my dad was, maybe he was tough to get along with, but I think he tried. And after him, you know, Matt was a terrible person too. So we just couldn't really get them to clean it up and to budge, quite honestly. I can give you their last name if you'd like.
No, that's not important.
Okay.
But anyway, now, are they going to keep the facade on this building the same with the signage?
Yeah, I think he's going to seek, you know, historic tax credits and try to keep the, we used to call it the Watkins fuel, Watkins Ice Building. I don't know if they sold, I think they sold ice and fuel in the day.
Uh-huh. So it is in a historic district?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And what are they projecting the cost to rehab?
This is real close to $1.7 million.
Sorry.
1.7 million.
Okay.
And again, structurally, we attempted with the previous owners. I sat with Frank Oswald, and he really pointed out some glaring structural problems. And so before you can get the can of paint out, you really have to anchor, you know, be sure that the building's safe. And I think, boy, to underestimate that, and I don't know this realm, I'm just reading from the paper here.
Okay. I have no more questions.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
Did you notice on these pictures, this 1947 picture has no street trees?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to have at least one of the cars parked in front of us.
Are you implying I was born in 1947, Mr.
No,
Chairman?
but they're older than me. I wasn't.
Oh,
so
well, I was.
No street trees, right here.
Mm-hmm.
47. Those are older cars than 47s. That are
Well, I didn't say they were 47. I said I'd like to have one. So, hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 26.
So moved.
Second.
Previous.
Hearing no objection to previous vote, Board Bill 26 is out with a due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda, Board Bill 28, Alderwoman Ingracia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. The first board bill I'm introducing today is 28, 1910 Virginia. This is a young woman who is on her own and buying her first house and undertaking a lot of the rehab work by herself. She acquired the house for $155,000, is putting in about $135,000. There are quite a few updates that need to be made. The former owners had the house for a very long time, and there have been no updates as of probably the last 20 to 30 years.
Alderman Schmidt.
No questions.
Alderman Moore.
No questions.
Alderman Cohen.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia. Oh, you're up there. Hearing no other questions, I entertain a motion on Board Bill 28.
So moved.
Second, previous.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 28 is out with a due pass. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 29, Alderwoman Ingracia.
This is 2655 Accomack Street. The 2600 block of, all the blocks in Fox Park are still very problematic. There was a lot of foreclosure, a lot of problem properties. So this developer acquired 2655 for $26,000, is putting in about $98,000 in upgrades, and then will sell it to a homeowner.
Alderman Schmidt?
Do we have a photo?
I passed it that way.
Oh, okay, great. No, I'm just always happy to hear good things about the 26 and 2700 blocks of Ackerman.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Alderman Moore?
No question.
Alderman Cohen?
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard?
No questions.
Alderman Villa?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 29.
Second.
Previous?
Hearing no objection to previous rule, Board Bill 29 is out with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
Dale, whoever's going to handle Florida's bills, 13 first, Board Bill 13. Just for everyone's information, Alderwoman Florida's out of town. So Michael's going to handle her bills.
Good afternoon. 3637 North Utah Place is in the Tower Grove South neighborhood. Michael Thomas and his wife, I forgot her name, will be owner occupying this property. They're working with Ribbon Cutters, Inc. to develop it. And their acquisition was 119, and total construction is just over 100,000. It's a 1,700 square foot home, 2-car garage, and Alderwoman Florida supports a 5-year tax abatement. We felt the neighborhood was strong, and the street is definitely in good shape, but it's close to some areas across Grand that get iffy, and because it was owner occupied, we felt it was a strong project.
Alderman Schmidt.
Michael,
Schmidt.
this looks like at one time it might have been a 2-family. It was converted to a single-family, right? Just from the porch, it looks like a lot of our houses on the south side with a 2-family, and the door was converted to like a window treatment. I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken.
It might have been. I have a bunch of the interior photos too. I only have one set if you want to look at them, but
It'd be great, because that's what I'm trying to encourage, obviously, but that's okay. Yeah, thank you. That's
Yeah.
all I have.
Alderman Moore.
No question.
Alderman Cohen.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
No, thank you.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
I don't have any questions, but if you haven't heard of Ribbon Cutters, I would look into it for some of your constituents. It's a pretty cool program.
What program is that?
Ribbon Cutters that's developing this property.
the way I understand it, I think they cover a lot of the acquisition costs and work with the homeowner to finance the project and do the construction.
Right, so you get to pick out, instead of just moving into a rehabbed home, you get to pick out all the
Right.
fixtures like you would if you were building a house.
Right, so you're involved throughout the process. The owners were handling all the tax abatement, but so we didn't come in contact a lot with Ribbon Cutters, but.
Yeah, no, it's great. They do great work.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 13.
So moved.
Second.
Previous.
Hearing no objection to previous rule, Board Bill 13 is out with a due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 42, Alderwoman Florida.
This is also in the Tower Grove
Pictures.
South neighborhood. Oops, sorry. 415658 Juniata Street. The developer is Gateway Property Services, LLC, not to be confused with the Lookaway. I think that was Gateway Properties. This is 2 fee simple townhouses, or 2 fee simple homes. Total acquisition $110,000. Total construction cost $305,000, and they anticipate marketing them at $250,000 each. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2,300 square feet each side, 2 parking spaces per fee simple home. This is a 5-year tax abatement.
Alderman Schmidt.
No questions.
Alderman Moore.
No questions.
Alderman Cohen,
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard,
No questions.
Alderman Villa,
Thank you.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 42.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Request for previous roll. Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 42 is out with a due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda is Board Bill 43, Alderwoman Florida.
3548 Giles Avenue, also in the Tower Grove South neighborhood, is a project that GAA Builders, John Fortunato, is rehabbing for the current owner, who acquired it for $28,000. The construction costs are $54,000. It's a one-bedroom, small, 1,300 square feet. The Alderwoman originally had authorized up to a 10-year tax abatement, and when our staff looked at it and looked at its proximity to the last two projects that you saw that were receiving 5, we had recommended a 5-year, and she concurred that she wanted to do a 5-year tax abatement.
Alderman Schmidt.
No questions.
Alderman Moore.
No question.
Alderman Cohen.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
No questions.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
I'm glad that we're finally making 5-year recommendations. It's about time. Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 43.
Moved.
Second.
Previous.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 43 is out with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Board Bill 18, Alderman Valmer. And Alderman Valmer couldn't make it today. He's a little tied up.
Good afternoon. Board Bill 18 is 5444 Odell. This is in the Southwest Garden neighborhood. The developer here is John Fortunato with GAA Builders. He acquired this property for $21,000. It is a single-family residence that will be renovated as a 2-bedroom, 1-bath with a two-car parking pad in the rear. The estimated construction costs are $82,000, and the asking price for this property will be $145,000. Here, Alderman Valmer supports a 10-year tax abatement on this property.
Alderman Schmidt.
That's in Southwest Gardens.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. No question.
Alderman Moore.
No questions.
Alderman Cohen.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
I guess my question would be, and it's not really none of my, I don't care one way or the other, why did you, since this is similar to that previous project in the other ward,
Southwest Gardens, that's why I asked that. It's Southwest Gardens.
10-year versus the 5-year?
Essentially, that's, we've had a list of criteria that we've been trying to go through and evaluate each project individually based on the investment and the area and the neighborhood of where it's located and so forth.
Okay.
Alderman Villa.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion
So moved.
on Board Bill 18. Do I have a second?
Previous.
I need a second.
Oh.
Thank you. Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 18 is out with a due pass. Well, at least we had 2 motions. And one too many. Board Bill number 20, Alderman Valmer, is next on the agenda.
Board Bill 20 is 5223 Elizabeth. This is in the Hill neighborhood. The developer here is Alan Schomaker. He purchased this property for $47,000. He plans to demolish the current structure and construct a new single-family residence for just under $300,000. The proposed residence will be a 4-bedroom, 3-bath with a full basement, 2-car garage, just about 2,800 square feet, and this will be owner-occupied. The Alderman here supports a 10-year tax abatement on this property.
Alderman Schmidt?
So the city's going to be getting taxes on a vacant lot for 10 years. Is that what I understand?
No, they're constructing a new home there.
Right. So the city will be getting taxes on a vacant lot for 10 years.
Well, there's a current
No,
residence there.
the city will be getting taxes on a vacant lot for 10 years because the assessor will come out and assess the property once the building's down, and the city will be getting taxes for 10 years on a vacant lot on the hill.
That's kind of up to the assessor, but normally
That's how it
he would
works.
include.
Dale, come on up here. Dale.
On the vacant house.
Well,
So we all can hear you. Come up here.
Sorry. I mean, normally the assessor would continue the assessment on that vacant house as well, and that would be included.
I mean, what'll happen is they'll wait and ask the assessor to come back out, and the city's going to be getting, I mean, we can all go back down and look at the assessor's records, 6 months from now or a year from now, but what's happening when we vote on this, what's happening is that we're going to be having taxes. I'm not saying we shouldn't vote for it. I'm saying we ought to know what we're voting on. What we're voting on is taxes on a vacant lot for 10 years in the Hill neighborhood with a house that has 4 bedrooms in it. That's what we're asking.
You may know more than I how the assessor would work, but normally the assessment on the new property would be based on the assessment as of January 1st of 2014. And January of 2014, there was a vacant house on it. So I would think that they would include that vacant house in the assessment for 2015 and onward, but you may know better than I.
The developer always asks the assessor to come out and look at the vacant lot. That's what they do. And
Okay,
that's what-
you may
and
be
that's
right.
what
You
the
may be
assessor
right.
does. Isn't that how we understand it? I mean, okay.
I would have to check with the assessor.
All right.
Yeah, you may be right.
So, I mean, somebody was just telling me how great the Hill was yesterday, and I agree, it's great. Okay, that's it.
Alderman Moore?
No question.
Alderman Cohen?
Dale, do you mind coming back up for just a minute? So, kind of piggybacking off of my colleague from the 20th Ward, so when we pass this board bill, it enables the city to offer the 10 years tax abatement, but the time when that actually becomes enacted is once the project is complete.
Yeah,
correct?
it's implemented at the time the project's
So I think
completed.
to, my colleague from the 20th Ward's point is, even if the assessor did do that on January 1st of this year, January 1, 2014, there's, it's 6 months away before the, new assessment period, happens, or the new assessment year happens. We're, at the end of May. June 1st is this Saturday. So, there's not really anything to say that, demolition can't happen by the end of summer, and then construction on a new building happens next spring, and then over the winter they have a vacant lot while the assessor's office is out there making their assessments for people this fall. Which is generally the time frame, if I'm not mistaken, when the assessor's office sends out people to survey, land. So I think to his point, there is the very real potential that, the assessment of this will be of a vacant lot, which I don't think is the intent of the people sitting behind this table, when we pass this piece of legislation. At least it's not mine. I can't speak for my other colleagues. So I certainly have some issues with certain parts of the city using 10 years when, I represent an area that's in transition, and, really feel very strongly that, we should be more discerning and discretionary in terms of, which areas get 10 years. But on top of that, to have a project where you have a building that's currently standing with the potential, for demolition based off of the project that we know it to be at this point, and the assessor goes out and actually would assess the land as a vacant parcel before they actually start the project and complete it, which is when you all would approve it for the final round of approvals for tax abatement. is a little alarming. And so I don't know if there's a part of that process that you all can double check to make sure that, you know, the intent of the legislation is followed through as far as the tax abatement is concerned.
Well, I'd be happy to check with the assessor. I've
Here,
not really ever discussed that
Dale, this is what
with
we'll
him.
do. We'll go ahead and hear this bill, and then I'll hold it. We're not going to vote on it until we get a clarification.
Okay, okay.
Okay, is that fair?
I think that's very fair.
Yeah, I think, you know, we need some questions answered.
Yeah,
so we
I would
know.
imagine it would depend on the timing, because if then January 1st of 2015 comes along and the old house is demolished and the new one is partially constructed, you may be absolutely right. They may think, you know, it's essentially a vacant lot with a building under construction and go forward in that. On the other hand, it seems like if the house is finished by January 1st of 2015, that then they would count the old house.
Well,
But
Dale, there's a
I'm
lot
not
of-
the assessor, so I'll check
There's a lot
with
of
him.
what ifs here. What if he didn't get his loan? Let's just kill this part of it now. We'll finish hearing the bill,
Okay.
and then I'll hold it in committee, and then, you know, you can check with the assessor and find out,
I
because
will.
that's the other question I would have. What if he doesn't have his financing, so he holds it for 2 years? I mean, the abatement stays in place. I mean, it doesn't start until you complete the project, you know, so then it would be, you know, he's
Yeah,
being
then it
assessed
really
for
would be a vacant lot.
property.
Yeah.
So let's find out, and maybe you can tweak this to make sure that it, you know, pays some taxes.
Okay, okay, be happy
Alderman, are
to.
you done with questions?
Yeah, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
No, Mr. Chairman, just an editorial comment. In the alderman's absence, I think the infill housing they're doing on the Hill, if you drive around, is really pretty spectacular. Now, having said that, to me, it's not only an ideal location, but there's an ethnicity thing that helps hold all that together, although the gentleman's, maybe I'm confusing the gentleman's last name who's going to build this, but the lots are long and narrow, and the parking is not ideal. So I would, you know, in his absence, I would acquiesce to what Alderman Ballmer requested, but again, just editorial comments. Some of the infill stuff they're doing up there is really, really neat and goes for big numbers when they're done. So, but you have to build these were, historically, Dale, didn't we call these shotgun houses?
That's true, that's true.
So it's not, you know, what they're wrecking is not very formidable. And in exchange for that, we get a new family that's gonna, you know, so I'll just, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, I understand. A new family will buy food, pay electric, pay gas, you know, it'd be a living house again. And I think it's wonderful that they're coming up with a 4-bedroom, you know, house or project. What was the recommendation for tax abatement?
10 years.
Okay, we'll hold our Alderwoman and Gracia. I'm sorry. Almost forgot you. We'll go ahead and hold Board Bill 20 and
Monsignor Bomarito will be very happy with a 4-bedroom house.
next on the agenda is Board Bill 22. Alderman Valmer.
Board Bill 22 is 5135 Shaw. This is also in the Hill neighborhood. And the developer here is also John Fortunato with GAA Builders. He acquired this property for $46,000 and will be renovating this property for about $91,000. It is a single-family residence, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, at about 2,700 square feet. And the asking price for this property be $184,000. And Alderman Valmer also supports a 10-year tax abatement on this property.
Alderman Schmidt.
I have no questions.
Alderman Moore.
No questions.
Alderman Cohen.
I would like to see the photo before asking questions, so if there's a way
It's
that I
coming.
might be able to. But
Alderman Villa's holding
no
it up.
questions at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I just got it. I'm very methodical in my deliberations.
Oh. No questions. Good luck with that one.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions, I'm sorry.
Alderman Villa.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Ingracia.
No questions.
Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill
moved.
22.
Second.
Previous.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 22 is out with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
That's all that we have, I think, on our agenda. Did we get them all?
That is true,
Right.
yeah, I think you've gone through them.
Thank you, and we'll let everyone know when we set up the next
I
meeting.
think we have set a date, I think it's the 24th, 25th, whatever, 25th, I think, whatever that date is at the end of June.
June, yeah.
And that agenda will be light, you know, maybe 10 bills or something like that.
Sure.
Yes, I would be willing to assure you of that.
June 25th is a Wednesday.
Well, then why don't we do 26 then?
It's the Thursday. It's
Yeah,
that
26th.
Thursday, whatever that is.
Yeah, and then that will be the last one, obviously, until fall. Good, thank you.
Thank you. And Dale, you'll get back to me on that, Board Bill 20?
I will.
My birthday's the